Hello, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. This afternoon, as part of our online film festival weekend, we have a masterclass with film director John McPhail. Do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you've done, John?
Hiya, I'm John McPhail. I'm a filmmaker from Glasgow. I've made a whole bunch of short films and two features, one called Where Do We Go From Here and the next one called Anna the Apocalypse.
Nice. And throughout the live stream, the audience, can interact with putting questions down in the comments, and John will answer them for you. All right, I'll hand you over to John now.
Hi guys, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks very much for coming along. I want you to be able to get any questions you want to answer, so please don't be shy about sending anything through. This is to give you guys an opportunity, a little bit of an insight into directing, and also just want to apologise about my messy room. Having a wee bit of painting done. So yeah, as I said, I'm John McPhail. I started off just like you guys, just really interested in film, wanting to get into film, like leaving school, not knowing really what I wanted to do or what path I wanted to take. I first went and done an HND at Glasgow College of Building and Printing, which is now called something else. I think it's called City of Glasgow College. And then I went on to do my BA Honours at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, which is now renamed the RCS. So I don't have any degrees that have mean anything anymore. I've always been interested in film ever since I was a little boy. Most of that came from watching horror movies with my mum. My mum was always a big fan of Stephen King and John Carpenter, so those were the kind of things I watched growing up. I was never, when I went into college, I was probably never the most sort of filmic person. I wouldn't be able to talk about crazy artistic movies or anything like that. I just loved films, just loved Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and John Carpenter movies and anything with blood and gore, really. So yeah, I went to college, then went to university, sort of specialised in cinematography, which is the sort of camera side of it. As a director of photography, that's what I thought I wanted to be. After graduating university, I went and worked in a whole host of things, from sport to corporate videos. I worked on feature films, adverts, TV programs, and that's what I was saying. I thought my path was going to be. I decided I was working on a TV program called Waterloo Road, and they moved their TV show up to Greenock. And I was lucky enough to get a job as one of the camera assistants there. It was quite a technical role, with the camera department. And I think I was maybe about 26, and I was going, is this what I want to do? Is this what I always want to do? Do I want to be a techie? And I wasn't feeling creative. Me and my friends, we used to meet up on a Wednesday night. We used to write comedy sketches, and then we'd go out on the Saturday and Sunday and shoot them. And there's maybe 3-4 of us, plus a bunch of actors that we'd met. And that's what we really do. And that was my sort of creative side of things. After sort of getting, making YouTube videos and things like that, I just wanted to sort of try out making some comedy, like a story, like a short film. So I'm going to actually just click comments over there. So I think that's what it is. And so sorry, I thought, I want to make comedy with heart and character. So I thought, I'll try and write a little short film. And I got the idea of this short film. It was called Notes. And I got this idea because I was living in a flat with this other guy that I hadn't met for 3 months. He used to work night shifts in a factory, and I was doing 12 to 13-hour days working on Waterloo Road. So by the time I'd got home, he'd be away to work. And by the time I'd got up my way to work, he'd have already been home and in his bed. So I used to leave him post-it notes about the flat saying, "Hiya, I'm John, I'm your flatmate. there's beer in the fridge, wire in. And he used to write me back saying, "Hiya, John, how you doing?" And we used to communicate like that. You know, if he'd leave a mess in the microwave, I'd leave a post-it note going, "Do you want to clean this up, pal?" And I thought, oh, this would be quite nice if it was like, you know, a wee story, you know, about, you know, two people meeting and, you know, falling in love and, you know, communicating through post-it notes. So I wrote a little short film called Notes, and I put it into a film festival called the Bootleg Film Festival in Edinburgh. It was the very first film festival I'd ever submitted to. And we won our very first award for Best Scottish Film. And I thought to myself, hey, I could try this out. I think I could be a director. And that was kind of like my sort of way through this. So what I did was I put the film in there, and I thought I'm going to try and do like a whole bunch of short films, all in the vein of comedy, you know, trying out different things. And so I done a romantic comedy, I done a dark comedy, and I done a weird off the wall buddy movie called Doug and Steve's Big Holy Adventure. Each of the shorts were a way for me to sort of up my game. So each short got, like, you know, the very first one was sort of minimal characters, minimal locations. And then, you know, the next one was sort of more characters on screen, more locations, and the stories are just getting a little bit bigger. So what I was doing, like, was, as I said, was trying out and working within my means. And as I started to grow and develop, my shorts would do the same thing. And always the plan was that short films could be used as a calling card. They can be used not only sort of to help you train and find those kind of stories you want to tell, but also what it would do would it would help me work towards making that first feature film. That first feature film was Where Do We Go From Here? One of the main things as well about all this was I was doing all this with my best friend Tyler. So we would always write together and work together. And I would always say that it's good to meet people who are very like-minded, to work with people who are like-minded. And if you have a really good working relationship, you know, with someone, keep that going. I can see there's a wee comment there. Hi, John, it's Kate. How are you doing? I'm well, thanks very much, Kate. How has your life changed since the premiere of Anne and the Apocalypse? Well, I've now got two agents, a TV agent and a film agent in the States. I've got a US attorney and a US manager. So yeah, it's changed quite a wee bit. So I've been doing quite a lot of work, a lot of pitches, particularly in the US. That seems to be where a lot of my work is at the moment. So yeah, one of the things about directing is it's not one person makes a film, if that makes sense. So what you want to do is you want to learn how to work with people. Like people management skills is really, really important. It's understanding, you know, what someone's good at and how to get the best out of people. And that's always a really, really good way to sort of do things. I would love to work in Scotland more. It's just at the moment it just seems to be. I've got a couple of films in prep and in development here in Scotland, but most of the work seems to be coming from the US. It's just that they've got much more money and sort of it's sort of more studios, more production companies, more money. That's where everything seems to be at the moment. I would love to keep on working here in Scotland, and my plan overall is to make sure that that's what I continue to do, is to make sure I come back here, and this is where we'll always sort of where I work or where I want to work. I want to bring US productions here as much as possible. I actually was able to shoot a little short film for Fox and Disney for the Halloween period, which was really nice. We shot it over during COVID as well. So it is possible to continue to shoot and work during these weird times. I know probably a lot of you are seeing in the news that the arts is not like a viable option, and it's, you know, you're being told that it's been made to feel that maybe that film or like music is not it's not working at the moment. That's not true. I've not been as busy in my entire life as I have been here. As I say, because the productions are all desperate to sort of get back up and running. You know, there's so much, and people will always want content, be that television, film. So don't worry about that. This is just a little blip at the moment. If you guys get any questions, is there anything specific? I just don't want to sit here and talk about myself for too long. I start to get a bit embarrassed. Is there anything that you are wondering? Is there anything that's bothering you or curious? The next project I'll be working on, I've just sold a film to Amazon Studios with Scooter Braun's production company and Channing Tatum's production company, Free Association. So I'm currently working with the writer just now to get that up and going. I've also got a film that we're casting for with the producers of Anna and the Apocalypse as well. Trying to think about more on the sort of the directing side. It's a good question, Caitlin. Do you think it's necessary to go through the college and university, get into film and TV? Yes and no. No, because you can. It's just, you just have to sort of get those sort of basic sort of skills there before getting onto a set. But what I would highly recommend about college and university is it helps you work on those people management skills, working with people, learning how to work with people. It's also a place to sort of make mistakes. Making mistakes is fine. There's nothing wrong with making a bad short film. There's nothing wrong with making a bad project at all, as long as you learn from it. And college and university gives you that great opportunity to do all that. What advice would I give to a young filmmaker? I know it's a wee bit hard just now with all the COVID stuff, but shoot. Make as much as you can. Try out things as much as you can. It's, essentially you're a storyteller, and it's finding out those stories that you like telling and the stories that you want to tell. And you're only going to do that by making things and seeing what works. When you make a wee short film and you put it into a film festival, and how audiences respond to things is so important. I think a lot of people forget that, is that you make films for audiences. They're not for you. Yes, they're your stories, but it's a story to tell people. If you're sitting around a campfire and you tell a story that nobody's really interested in, do you get what I mean? Like that's the point of it. You want to entertain folk. You want to either if you're making a horror film to scare them, you want them to feel all sort of warm and cozy. You're making a romantic comedy. So make sure just to go out and shoot as much as you can. There's Joe. Hi, John. What advice have you got for anyone considering making a low-budget feature in the future? Prep. It's all about preparation, making sure you're doing everything within your means. When I wrote my first feature film, I hadn't wrote Where Do We Go From Here as my first feature. I wrote another film. It's called Babs and Kathy. It was pretty much Lethal Weapon with old people. But when I was sort of like looking at it, I was realizing like this is going to be quite a high budget, and I don't know how I'm going to raise that kind of finance. Also, that the thing that had been working so well with the shorts was me and Tyler, and how important that relationship was, and I felt that would be, I wasn't working with something that it wasn't my strongest foot, if that makes sense. And I wanted to kick off with my strongest foot, and that was our relationship. Have you sorry. How can one get on those projects? Is that an all internal hire? Well, what do you mean by those kind of projects? Like, you have to sort of a bit elaborate on that. If you manage to take any of your team with you as you've moved on, yeah, there's loads of us that still all work together. There's loads of folk who I've worked with as a camera assistant, who were my bosses, who have all worked for me. Particularly for Anna and the Apocalypse, I worked with I used to sit with all the sparks. I used to have to go and bother them to get power for batteries and monitors, and a lot of these guys all came on to work on Anna and the Apocalypse with me. I was able to. One of my producers, Lauren Lamar, who's been there since the start, like through all the shots, and I worked with Lauren when I was a director of photography on a web series. So I've worked with Lauren for like 10, 11 years now, maybe 12 years. There's even the production coordinator, Kiri Barker, who I've worked with for about 12 years as well. So there's lots of people who have came with me. Tyler's been in all my shorts, all my features. So it's great like that. Hi John, have you ever done any documentary work, and how would you approach developing relationships with participants before shooting? I've done documentaries in college. Factual isn't really my cup of tea. It's, I love documentaries. It's just not the kind of things I like to make. But with factual, it is just a case of picking up the phone. Just to sort of tell you this as well, like one of the things about film, or like in the sort of film industry, is that you're going to get a lot of rejection. And as human beings, we don't like that. Nobody likes being rejected. But you're going to have to grow a thick skin. So you're going to have to pick up the phone up people. People say no. Some people say yes. They would love to be part of things. But you just have to sort of have a bit of brass neck just to sort of try that. So creating those kind of relationships, you just have to pick up the phone, send an email, write to someone. With social media, with Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we've got that ability to connect to people really, really easily. So it's just maybe trying to find a way to sort of connect with folk. I think I'm funny. So every Monday, whenever I'm sending an email, I'll attach a Garfield comic and sort of at the end of the email say, P.S. Don't worry, Garfield hates Mondays more than you, So it would make people laugh. People would enjoy seeing these wee kind of things, say thanks very much. And I'll be remembered as that wee guy that keeps sending me Garfield comics. The project you talked about, like the Amazon one, and that was how would one get hired for those projects? Well, that'll be probably a US production. It'll just depend on where it'll be shot. Most likely, I'd like to shoot that in Europe, so it may be like a European crew that will be on that. The heads of departments will probably be a mix of either American and British, because that's who I like to work with, or that's who I work with. So the best way to get into a production, first of all, get your driver's license, right? So it's really, really important how to get to set. And if you have to get picked up by someone, you can. There is usually try and get meeting points to pick people up. But what you want to do is make sure you've got a driver's license. Put that on the top of your CV, full UK driver's license. And then that means there's no excuse not to hire you. What I would also do is I would hound people. I would hound them and hound them and hound them about getting a job. So what I would do is I would always email the production coordinator, who's usually in charge of hiring. If it's the camera department you want to get into, you want to write to focus pullers. In Scotland, and we've got something called Film Bang, which is like a directory with like loads and loads of different people in it who have got from camera operators to sound operators, focus pullers, production coordinators. And if you write to them, and if you're the person that keeps on sending them emails saying, "Hi, my name's blah blah blah, I would love to be part of your next production," then when they're hiring, or when someone is out sick and they need to get somebody in like really quickly, you're going to be the first person they think of, because you're the one that's been hounding them all the time. If that kind of makes sense. How do you get your shots seen once it's finished? Any other avenues other than of course film festivals? Festivals are really the best place. I know it's probably not the answer you're looking for. If you put it straight onto YouTube, with the algorithms and things, it can get lost in the black hole that is YouTube. So, and what it will also do is it will stop you getting your film into film festivals, because anybody can see it, anybody can find a link and click on it. Whereas with them, they've got they've got an exclusivity to it. And short films have got a 2-year lifespan. So whenever you make a short film, you get 2 years to sort of get out to as many festivals as you can. And I know it can be quite hard to sort of navigate the world of film festivals because there's so many of them. But each film festival has a mission statement. They tell you what it is they want to sort of do. And if you write to film, like when you're submitting your film, write a covering letter, write to the film festival, tell them how much you want to be part of it. Tell them, if you've done your research, what kind of films they screen, what kind of films they'd screened last year, the year before, and sort of tell them, that you fit that mold and that you want to be there. Personalize it. Make sure that they are aware that you not only you're interested, but you want to attend the festival. Film festivals are just full of film fans who just want to show off films. I was just saying to the guys actually that I love film festivals and I love what these guys are doing and putting on because they're the true champions of film. Like, in film festival audiences are the same. Like, they just love film. They just want to go and watch as many films as possible. So by making sure that you write to the film festivals, making sure that you, as I say, personalise your covering letters, there's more chance that you're going to get in, because film festivals want you to attend. They want people who are passionate about festivals. So, as I say, it's maybe just a case of just, as I say, sort of delving a little bit deeper. And it is a long process, but you can, you sit there and probably watch the TV at night, and sit there watching TV that night, sit and troll through Film Freeway and look at all the different film festivals out there, look at film festivals that suit you and suit your film. In your opinion, what is the best way to communicate with actors and the best performance working relationships? Well, you have to remember that actors are artists as well, and I know I've seen a lot of this on short films, particularly when I was a student. I did the same thing, which was I dictated to actors and didn't direct them. And dictating and directing is two completely different things. When you're dictating and you're telling an actor, like, I want you to walk into the room, I want you to sit down on the chair, I want you to lift up your paper, then I want you to drop it down, deliver your dialogue, and then sit back up. The actor will do it, and it'll be very wooden, and it'll look very wooden because you're not communicating with them. Communication is key. And you want them to feel part of the process and not like just a walking prop. And that's how it becomes really, really wooden. So when you're working with an actor, you ask them, what do you think? Like, you tell them the sort of essence of the scene, where they've came from and where they're going to, and you discuss it. You tell them, like, I need you to come in the room and I need you to sit down and, play about with this paper and walk it through with them. Let them try it and then adjust it. You wouldn't say to your director of photography, right, I want you to shoot back here on an 18mm, and then I want you to put a 2K through that light and backlight them with a couple of pops. They just look at you and go, why are you telling me how to do my job? Like, you set the scene, let's throw up a lens and look at it together. And that's key. That's key with all aspects of production, be the art department, be the sound department. As I said earlier, not one person makes a film. I like to think of film as a big, massive machine, and it's got big cogs and it's got little tiny cogs, and each cog is important because if it doesn't work, and if it isn't all working together and in unison, then the machine doesn't work properly. It'll get there, it'll stumble by, but there'll be things that butt up against it. So making sure that you work with people, and that's why it's key to work with folk who you like working with, and starting out with your friends is always a really, really good place. I used to make comedy sketches with when I was younger with my school friends, or like my music friends when we had played in a band, and I used to have an old Panasonic VHS camera. It was my mum's, and I couldn't edit because I didn't have any facilities, so I used to do it in camera. And by doing that, you sort of start to learn. You get an eye for a frame. You get ideas of how things can work and how things cut together. And that's important. Hey Roy, hi John. Which directors have influenced you the most? I love Richard Curtis. I love Richard Curtis movies. John Hughes movies. Like, sort of grew up watching them. I told you earlier about John Carpenter, and I love John Carpenter. Love all his movies. And I love Edgar Wright. I think Edgar Wright's one of probably the best British director around at the moment, just because of how funny he is, how smart he is, his frames. He doesn't just, he looks at the sound of everything. It seems like he's always got a soundscape, and it's I just, as I say, I just love his writing. Love the way that he works. I love John Carpenter just because of like the synths. I love music. I love music in film. I'm not very good at music, but like I love it. And as I'm making films, I'm learning how to communicate about music and learning how to sort of score films. And when you work with musicians, you start to pick up terminology and pick things up a little bit better. Just to also say to you, because I always like to tell this to folk as well, which was I was never the best at anything. I was never the best at college or university. It was always folk who were, talking about, these weird arty movies that just went right over my head. And whenever I used to play football, I used to get the cheers for turning up medal, the participation sort of trophy. But when I made my first short, all the things that I'd learned through watching other directors, watching, and sort of, working through things and, cutting my own stuff, that everything just clicked for me. And as I say, that was when I was 26. So probably you guys will be streets ahead of me. When do you start working with a composer? It's completely up to yourself, Pa 41. I like to start off, like when I'm writing, I kind of make a soundtrack. I'll create a wee playlist on Spotify, and then and it's just the kind of the feeling of like scenes or like ideas I've had, and that just helps like sort of percolate the sort of the story with me. It gets me into those little moments. So you can kind of start working in that way if you don't know a composer in particular. You can sort of just make a wish list of tracks, and then when you do start working with musicians, you've got like this playlist of like music, and it's not saying like I want this song because maybe you can't afford it, but you can then speak to someone and say like here's a really good example, and here's a really good way of a track I like, and they can recreate that kind of sound or that kind of feeling. So it's completely up to yourself when you want to start to sort of like to work with a composer. It's always good to sort of write to people and try things out like that. As I say, was saying earlier on, hound people. Hiya, Holly. Sorry if these are silly questions. No questions, silly, Holly. Don't be shy about that. When you're trying to make your first short film, do you need to invest your own money in the project? If not, how do you apply for funding to pay for set costs and to hire actors? Do people work together for free? Yeah, they do work. People do work together for free. When I made Notes, I think it cost me 150 quid, which is not a lot. Like, that might feel like a lot, but when you're working, you can just save some money by. And that was really just for like just for the production costs, and most of that was for food. Like, I was shooting it in this crummy flat I was staying in, the one where I was putting the post-it notes up. But my best mate, he worked for a facility hire company, so there was lots and lots of he had lots and lots of access to equipment, so we could get equipment for free. If you're at college or university, it's a good opportunity because you've got equipment you can work with. When you're starting out, that's why I keep on saying about working with your mates. When you know people, and I know that's hard to sort of ask folk to do things for free. And one of the things is I see a lot on Facebook is a lot of arguments about paying actors and paying things like that. And you have to sort of make people aware, I'm making my first short film, I don't have any money, I'll pay for your transportation, I'll make sure you're fed and watered, and look after people like that. You know, one thing about a set, you know, you're working really long hours, and you're trying to make something, you know, low budget. You know, people are working really hard for you and with you, so making sure that they're fed is very important. A wee hot meal is really good. You can, the wee tip is go to Greg's. At the end of the day, Greg's throw out like loads of stuff, and you could be like, well, instead of throwing it out, you could donate it to my short film, and we'll put a nice wee credit in there for you. Sometimes Greg's can do that. Bakers do that. If you're in like a little town, you can speak to like locals like that and ask for little things like that. But as I said, making sure they've got food is kind of really important. Saying you'll pay for transportation. It's really hard to apply for funding when you haven't got anything to back it up. So that's why you kind of need to go out and make those short films yourself on those low budgets. Hope that's helped, Ollie. Do you mind working with students? No, I love working with students. Like, it's, you know, you want kind of like folk who have sort of went through who have come through studying, and maybe this is them just graduated and this is their first steps into the world. But we had a runner, Laura, who just graduated from college. Laura now works on like the Avengers and stuff like that. She's absolutely brilliant. She's an AD now. She works really, really hard, and she does, like, as I say, these sort of big budget stuff now. And I'm always chuffed seeing her, because she came out and worked on my first feature, and then she came out and worked on Anna. And you know, it's just great watching that sort of like development and growth. You know, being a student is, as I say, it's great, because you've been afford to make those mistakes. When you are a student, making sure that you're, like, when the universities bring in like sort of like guest lecturers, is sort of like, make sure you ask questions. They'll remember you. They'll remember, like, oh, you were the person that asked this and that. Like I was saying to Holly, there's no stupid questions. Don't ever think that. You know, the only people that, like, what's the saying? I would rather feel silly for 2 seconds than for the rest of my life by not asking. So make sure you always ask questions, and particularly that. Zam Salim, who made a feature film called Up There, and he's the director on MI High and things like that. His first feature film, he brought me onto that after sort of graduation. But while I was a student, I worked on like these Channel 4 shorts. There was a whole bunch of us that did that as well. So when guest lecturers come in, you know, as I say, you know, make yourself known. If you're sitting, you know, at lunchtime or break time, you know, with a coffee, ask them questions. You know, that's what they're there for, and that will help you be able to, as I say, get them to remember you. And you know, when they're doing something, you know, that you can be the first person they call on. Or if, as I was saying earlier on, you're hounding people, you're sending them emails saying, if you're doing anything, just let me know. They'll remember you. Hey again, Roy. When you're writing scripts, how do you know the idea is working? Do you show your friends before it's finished and get their opinion? So writing scripts, I always feel it's a hard one. It's hard to write, and unless, don't start writing until you know the full story, if that makes sense. What you want to do is make as many notes as possible. You know, like, it's going to start here, and spend the time just sort of blocking the story out, beat by beat by beat. You don't have to write in the dialogue. You know, it's just that it's going to start here, and this is how it's going to end. Like, this is the middle of it, and this is how it's going to end. Because when you're writing, it becomes dead critical. And I'm thinking, this is kind of where you're sort of sitting, Roy, where you're sort of writing stuff and you're going, oh, I don't know if this is any good. If you know the story, you can just write it. You know that from the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? And when I started out, when I was writing scripts, I used to not think of all those different things, and then I'd get to the middle of it and go, I don't know if this is any good, or how am I going to do this, or where is this going to go? So what I would do would be, as I say, make sure it's all sort of blocked out, and then just attack it. And while I'm writing it, I tell myself, this is the best thing since sliced bread. This film's amazing. This is a story that has to be told, and I tell myself that all the time when I'm writing it, so that I can get that first draft done, because it's so hard to get that first draft completed from beginning, middle, and end. But see, once you've done it, it's such a great accomplishment. Then what I do is I put it away for 2 weeks. Don't try not to think about it. You will think about it. You'll think a lot about it, but try not to. Just let those wee things sit there. And then what to do is after those 2 weeks, take that script out and then put your critic's hat on and just sit and go through it and go, nope, that's terrible. No, oh, I really like that. That's really good. I'm going to change that to this. And once you've done that, you've got a solid second draft. Then what I do is I give it out to people who I trust, people who are not going to tell me, oh, John, that's amazing, because I know it's amazing. I wrote it. I'm just kidding. But what you've got is you get people, if you send it out to 3 or 4 people who, as I say, who are not going to tell you, oh, it's just amazing. Who are going to tell you, oh, I really like this, or I don't get this, or I don't get that. And if, say, 3 out of 4 of those people come back saying, I don't like this, that's something for you to address, because you need, as I say, you need to think about your audience. And these are people, as I say, who are not there to, to cut you down. They're there to help you, and you've sent it to them because you trust them. If it's one person saying something, that's an opinion, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But as I say, if it's 3 or 4 people or 2 or 3 people that are saying to you, I don't get this, then it's something to address. I hope that's helped me. Really, really good luck with your writing. You guys get any other questions at all? Oh, there's Liam back. Fun.
Right.
The fun police is here.
I've got to bring it to an end. But thank you. That was really, really interesting to hear from you. It's really good to hear from a Scottish director and their path and their advice. Although I'm going to have to wrap things up now because we have our Film Strand Reality Bites coming on at 4 o'clock. We're going to be screening some films, and then we'll have a Q&A with the filmmakers afterwards. So I hope you'll all be joining us there, and you'll be able to vote in our audience vote. Anyway, thanks again, John, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Hi, thanks for all your questions, guys. That was really, really brilliant. I hope you have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of the festival, and hopefully I'll see you all your films soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.